a king is murdered. In the next sentence, a saint heals a blind man, then a flood destroys a village. Gregory of Tours writes all three events back to back with equal weight. For centuries, scholars dismissed this as sloppy writing, the work of a man who couldn't organize his thoughts. They were wrong. Gregory saw something we've been trained to miss. Understanding his method unlocks how medieval people actually thought about history, time, and God's role in human affairs. To understand what Gregory was doing, we need to see what he wasn't doing. Consider Procopius, writing at the exact same time in Constantinople. His histories read like classical literature, linear political narratives, rhetorical polish, human causation driving events. This was the educated standard inherited from Thucydides and Herodotus. Gregory knew this tradition. He came from one of the most educated families in Gaul. He chose to write differently, not because he couldn't match Procopius, but because he had a different model entirely. Gregory's model wasn't Greek historians. It was the Hebrew Bible. Look at the Old Testament. Genealogies interrupt narratives. Miracles sit beside military campaigns. Divine intervention and human politics interweave constantly. Nothing separates sacred from secular. Gregory explicitly states his purpose to describe both the holy deeds of saints and whole races of people butchered. This isn't contradiction or confusion. It's his thesis statement. For Gregory, excluding either category would falsify history. Both reveal God's providence working through time. Picture Gregory's narrative as a tapestry rather than a timeline. 4 threads weave together: political violence, saints' miracles, natural events, and church affairs. Each thread carries equal weight. Each reveals divine providence. Classical history would isolate the political thread and call it the real story. Gregory refuses this separation. A plague and a royal assassination both demonstrate God's action in the world. A healing miracle and a tax dispute both matter historically. The weaving itself makes his theological argument visible. Who was Gregory to write this way? His background matters enormously. Gregory came from a Roman senatorial family. Senatorial, that rank, still meant something in 573, nearly a century after Rome's traditional fall in 476. Here's the striking detail. Of the 18 bishops of Tours before Gregory, 17 were his relatives. The episcopate, the office of bishop, functioned as inherited elite power. This wasn't just religious authority. It was Roman aristocratic continuity, operating under new Frankish rulers. This family history challenges a common misconception. Many assume barbarian invasions meant total civilizational collapse. Gregory's dynasty proves otherwise. Roman elite families maintained power, titles, and institutions for generations. After the Western Empire ended, the Franks didn't replace Roman structures. They inherited and adapted them. Gregory calls himself senatorial because that identity still commanded respect. The bishop's office preserved Roman administrative expertise, Latin literacy, and aristocratic networks. Continuity, not collapse, defines this transition. But Gregory wasn't writing from some safe monastery, observing chaos from above. Okay, he was inside it. When accused criminals fled to his cathedral seeking sanctuary, Gregory refused to surrender them to royal officials. He argues theology directly with Frankish kings, challenging their Arian beliefs. He resisted royal taxation of church properties. He defended fellow bishops against political accusations. Gregory's history emerges from a man who risked his position and safety. He wrote as participant, not detached chronicler. This participation shapes everything Gregory records. When he describes a king's cruelty, he may have personally confronted that king. When he reports a miracle, he often investigated it himself, interviewing witnesses. His history carries the texture of lived experience, not archival research. Modern historians sometimes dismiss medieval sources as naive or credulous. Gregory was neither. He was a sophisticated political operator who chose to include miracles because excluding them would misrepresent how he understood reality to work. So what does this mean for reading medieval sources today? If we impose classical expectations on medieval texts, we misread them fundamentally. Gregory's apparent disorder is actually a coherent theological statement about how history works. Here's a practical reframing tool. When approaching any medieval source, ask first what model of reality the author holds. Don't ask why the text seems disorganized. Ask what organizing principle you might be missing. Gregory's principle was biblical. Sacred and secular form one fabric, woven by providence. His chaos is our category error. Gregory's approach poses a genuine challenge to modern assumptions about what counts as history. We separate religious experience from political analysis, miracles from military campaigns, the supernatural from the natural. Gregory refused these divisions. For him, a saint's healing and a king's murder belonged in the same narrative because both revealed the same divine author working through time. We don't have to share Gregory's theology to recognize his coherence. Medieval writers weren't failed classical historians. They were operating from different premises about reality itself. Gregory saw one world where we see two. His history recorded that unified vision with remarkable consistency.